Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to 6TCZ. This is the Anger Games Open Practices. I'm Yintan, and I'm here with my fellow venerable tournament veterans, Alec from Nuado
Hello, everybody.
and Radikos, the infamous tournament pilot. How are you doing, Radikos?
Oh, I'm doing good, thanks, Jen. How are you?
Great, and I don't know if this stream can see the arena here, but we've got a really interesting matchup to start the day with a Shield EOS being brought to the field here by, I believe that's TurboFeed Glory? That is. That's
No, that's
crazy.
No, that's Road.
Is that Rote?
Yeah.
All right.
It is absolutely wonderful to be back here with you for this Anger Games. I am super excited for this matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
But anyway, why don't we go a little bit over the format whilst we're just sitting at the commentary desk here, just to remind people of what's different versus the in the AG versus the AT. First of all is the team sizes. This is a 7 versus 7 format rather than a 10v10. So there's a lot more importance placed on individual pilot skill and especially screening, because you often do not have enough tackle ships to tackle down everything on your opponent's team. So you have to make a lot of snap judgments at the start of a match as to who to hold down. And that's one of the aspects of fights that I've realized is so important now that I've had some experience as a captain.
Yeah, you got to make those calls. If you don't make those calls when they need to be made, it can break the whole flow of things for your future and end up losing.
Mm-hmm. And we've also seen very few of the logistics frigates in these recent matches. Teams seem to be focusing so much on these logistics cruisers, be they T1, especially the Rodiva in that case, and the T2 logistics cruisers. Why is that, Alec?
Well, the T1 logistics frigates, despite their rather unassuming nature, they're actually a really good value and power for the points. The Tech 2 frigates are extremely strong, but they do soak up a lot of points, and at the end of the day, it's still a frigate, quite vulnerable. But they are still, commonly an attractive choice for teams in terms of the point spread versus, say, having a full logistics cruiser or the T2 logistics cruiser. They are, tactically a little more challenging to use, but can be more survivable in certain scenarios.
Oh, it looks like the first match is about to start, and we're going to have to do this as a radio player here, potentially. The looks like drones aren't quite out here yet for the TurboFeed Glory team. There we go. They are going all over the field. Where are they going to land onto? They're going up against a Paladin composition, which is going to have great projection and tons of damage here landing on the EOS right away, already at half shields. This is a huge amount of DPS being put out. The projection of that Oracle and Paladin are so powerful here, Alec.
But meanwhile, you can see the cloud of Rote Republic Fleet Valkyries swarming into the enemy team. Looks like they're going for the Rodiva here. Nope, they have bypassed the Rodiva. They're actually going for the Hyena.
Yeah, and it looks like they're going to be able to kill it once it lands on top of them. Those healer drones have amazing tracking, but this EOS is already bleeding into armor, going down here very quickly.
Meanwhile, they traded it for the Hyena here. That thing died almost instantly as soon as the drone cloud arrived, and now they're going after the Kitsune of Rilled Thunderpaw.
That isn't a bad choice. Those Kitsunes are so powerful. We're seeing the EOS here managing to get just a little bit of reps back from the Scimitar, burning as far away as it can from this Paladin. It's going to have to get right up to the edge of the arena, though, if it wants to even slightly mitigate it from range. The Paladin, I think, here is beam fit, so it's going to be able to project, well over 100 kilometers.
Now that Rote has cleared some of those electronic warfare frigs, they are now focusing down on the Oracles. Smart choice, because it's a lot of bang for not a lot of hit points, and the first one is down.
Sorry, I take that back.
Coming off these Gilas is just incredible.
Yeah, these healers just are so effective at taking out frigates here. We're starting to see a little bit of split damage as well, starting to go all over the what could go wrong team. Sorry, never mind, damage coming out here on the Oracle as well. Look at how quickly it's dropping. The Rodiva isn't getting a chance to spool up, just 2 reps firing off on it before it goes down. And the EOS is still alive. Is this maybe bait tanking here?
entirely possible as these drones are just shredding through the enemy team. Those initial frigates look like they died as soon as they attempted to turn, allowed all the drones to just catch up with them, and with them down, it seems like nothing can stop the damage output here, except perhaps
and
the
the
tank of this paladin.
hyena of it's gotten into the back line and it's got a web on this Rodiva. What that is pretty much game here. Aggressively mid-tier, just commanding the field, managing to sneak that hyena in. These drones are going to make short work of it, and look at that.
Great piloting by Vorian Winter, seeing the gap, diving his ship right through it to land a key tackle. And he's managing to live through it as well.
Oh, so take it back. It is actually a Pulse Paladin. My apologies. But it doesn't look like it's going to matter either way. You know, the amount of DPS coming out here, the amount of EHP that left on the field here. This is amazing. You don't often see off-tank ships like this.
Libya, he is living to win here, burning away from damage. Oh, it's not looking good.
Yeah, do you think there was any way that they could really have taken this home? Obviously, they were so close with that EOS. Maybe if they'd have sacrificed one of their hyenas or something small to keep a web on it just a little bit longer. Do you think that would have been enough to take it down?
Perhaps. Overall, I question the EOS as the correct first target for that fleet. They just had so much EM damage. You think going for one of the more likely heavily shield tank ships like the Gilas, which are outputting so much damage, while you have that damage advantage, try to go for those targets. Maybe they were afraid that they wouldn't be able to track them.
Yeah, that must have been it. Or maybe they were worried that the healers would just accelerate off too quickly. Still, that's a shame. I guess they just didn't bring in quite enough tackle here to get in on top of them. Only the Magus pretty much here can play aggressively, and that's such a tough position to be in when the hyena can screen that off effortlessly, and then you've got the worm free to do whatever it wants.
Now, it is a shield tanked EOS, but with with the shield tanking EOS, it still has a lot of mid slots. You can actually fit a remarkably strong shield tank there if it's not doing anything else like tackling. And it can be pretty speedy for a command ship.
This Paladin is smart bombing. He's trying desperately to kill a few drones, and he might get one or two, but it's not going to matter this late in the match. His utility just wasn't enough. He wasn't able to really sit down and land a lot of heavy newts onto something, which is the main reason you'd want to bring a Paladin for those utility highs. And there we go.
There he goes.
Is that a clean sweep? I think it is. Impressive stuff here from Aggressively Mid-Tier.
Lost 2 electronic attack frigates. No, 1.
Yeah. Welcome back to... Are we back at the commentary desk? Okay, brilliant. Wow, what an interesting comp there, guys. Shield tanked EOS, double healer. We've seen the healer quite a lot in these previous opens, and we haven't seen a huge amount of bans for it today. Do you guys expect us to see a lot of these sort of healer scimitar comps going forwards?
Well, I would hope so. I mean, if you're leaving Gila open in the bans, you better be bringing Gilas, because usually the other team's going to be bringing them. And that's the mentality when you're looking at it,
I think with the Gilas, it's just such a versatile ship. It's tanky. It does incredibly high amounts of damage with good tracking. The drones can hit smaller targets pretty well, but overall still a lot of damage output, so it can still threaten larger ships, especially when you bring several of them at the same time. It's a ship without a lot of weak points, really, and I feel like the weak points that it does have are very difficult to exploit in a tournament format that's only 6 people. I mean, 6, 7 people in a team. You can't really bring the amount of power that you'd need to get a deal off the field quickly. It's difficult to deal with the drones as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it can tank it pretty well. Just for a cruiser-sized ship, and the points, they're only 12 a piece base. So when you bring 3 of them, they're 14, and that's a lot of damage. I mean, some pirate, Lashek is like 35 points, and just for another 10 to some 13 points or something like that, you get triple that damage. the output on small frigates like frigate Logi and command destroyers and any kind of frigate, I mean, they're just going to get torn off the field. Doesn't matter. The Gila drones will overcome.
I suppose the
any of
question
those
there is going
frigates,
to
the electronic frigates that would seem to be the core of the low end of the what could go wrong team, really didn't have much of a chance. Their tanks are so small, they're really relying on the speed, but that speed counts for nothing against the bonus medium drones.
Yeah, well, fortunately, we're not going to have to worry about the healer in this next match because it is banned, with Odin's banning Scimitar, Healer, Vendetta, Curse, and Fancypants banning Barghest, Scimitar, Cerberus, Hyena. What do you think, Radikos, about banning the Vendetta in a format where you can't bring any AT ships?
Well, they're just making sure, that nothing like that shows up on the grid, and that's fine. They're afraid of a vendetta. I get that. Aren't they like hordlings, or used to be hordlings, fancy pants? So I get it.
Yeah, still, that leaves the armor version of this drone comp completely open,
Mhm.
as well as a couple of other big power picks. The Abaddon seems to be featuring quite heavily in the bans today.
Abaddon's a fantastic ship for this kind of tournament. The lasers have great projection, high damage, and even before the recent battleship buffs, it just has an absolute brick tank. It's another ship with not a lot of weaknesses, and the weaknesses that it does have, very difficult to bring to bear in this tournament format.
Are there any ships that you guys are really excited to see today? There's plenty of ships that we haven't seen too much of, like the Widow, and things like that I'm excited to see people try out.
Well, that'd be great to see a Widow or any Black Ops ship in this format. Through our practices, we've seen a Redeemer a few times, and they seem pretty strong, but I don't know the points is worth it or not.
I was just going to say the Redeemer comes to mind, but it is quite expensive. Especially when you can do a lot of what it does better with other ships. I think it
Right.
really only becomes viable when that sort of thing gets banned out.
Right.
Yeah, not a lot of Balgorn or Armageddon bans either, actually. That's another curious aspect, because those ships just allow you to project such a large sphere of influence on the field versus anything else. If you come within 30 to 40 kilometers of a Balgorn, you're going to have a bad day, no matter what ship you're flying in.
The Balgorn is especially curious because it's one of those versatile ships where the newts really, really nasty for really ships of any size, but especially battleships. And then the webs really help you control those lower ends, the tacklers that are trying to come in on you.
Absolutely.
I can only think maybe it's something to do with the point value, perhaps. People don't think it's worth it for the amount of points that it costs.
In this format, I would agree. Balgorn, and you can get enough DPS on the field where you can push through a Balgorn pretty well. And yeah, it's too much. It's too many points. That's why Geddon is better than Balgorn in this format, because the newts are a longer range. They have really good ability with RHMLs, and they tank very well, and so the plus the extra ability to do either DPS heavy DPS drones or rep bots is also very nice to have that option. Kind of interesting to see why people. It's gonna be interesting what people bring without having a Geddon or Balgorn not banned. Kind of see if they can get a little more free range without having to be forced into almost a control match.
Well, it looks like there's going to be a very interesting matchup on the way for you, Alec and Radikos, judging by what's landed on grid here. Some very, very fun ships, and something that I'm sure Wingnut will be saddened to have missed, with a Vindicator having warped in at 0.
Oof, it's gonna be good. Say what?
Go.
All right. Little bit of confusions as to who is doing what here, but we have Fancypants with an interesting setup: Oracle, Augur Naviushu, Neros, Magus, 2 Kitsunes, and a Vindicator, like we said, at 0.
And on the other side, with Odin's Make-A-Wish, we have a Leshek, a Zarmazad, a Rook, a Draugr, Magus, Retribution, and Claw for their support there. This will be an interesting match to see. One side brought Oneros, the other side brought a Zarmazad. And with a Vindicator and 2 Kitsunes on field, I don't think that Leshek will like that very much, or the Zarmazad. So they're going to be looking to get that right away. I wonder if they're going to go after it with Draugr and Retribution or not. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, you'd think they would want to. They really don't have any long-range projection to handle those Kitsunes, and I think the Kitsunes are going to have a pretty easy time kiting, except for this Claw, which is making a beeline to their backline.
Oh yeah, he's charging right.
And he has secured tackle on a Kitsune.
There you go.
It looks like the Draugr and the Retribution are following him up very slowly. Meanwhile, Star Conquer of the Rook is taking damage on Odin's Make-A-Wish. This is a battle for ECM supremacy here.
If they can keep that Rook up, which I believe they'll have a better time than the Kitsunes. Looks like the Kitsune is getting just Sim Such of Fancypants.
Yeah, he's not long for this world, I think.
No, he's
spooling on him.
He's chunking hard.
Meanwhile, the other Kitsune of the devil himself smartly pulling range from his partner, abandoning him to his fate, and buying as much time as possible.
And the Kitsune is down. The Kitsune is down for Fancypants. The next, what's just something else just popped? No, just Kitsune. And Star Conqueror is tanking very easily with Zarmazad reps on him.
Easily might be a stretch. I think the Vindicator has caught up to him. He is dropping very fast now.
Oh, there he goes. He is done for. It looked like he was getting good holding there for a while. Star Conqueror is out. He got beheaded.
Meanwhile, Thor Johansson's Claw has caught up to the other Kitsune of the devil himself, and Odin's Make-A-Wish's lower end is bearing down on him. He has a lot of small anti-frigate damage coming his way very shortly. Oof. Oh, yep, they've caught him now. He's down to half shields. He's not going to have much armor tank, and I believe he's out of range of their Logi. If he isn't, he's close. Yep, he is dropping to half armor now, getting some reps, but I don't think he's going to be able to hold up for long.
Yeah, no, there's just no way this Kitsune's going to hold here. He's going to go down, and it looks like they're going after the Vindicator as well. Zarthral of Fancypants Vindicator is taking most likely Leshek DPS, it looks like, and just getting absolutely pummeled right now. The Neros is applying some reps on it, but I don't know if when he gets fully spooled that Leshek is going to do some DPS.
Yep, and he's catching. Now the Vindicator is probably going to be pretty well tanked, but it's still more of an offensive machine. I wouldn't be super surprised if it has at least one low slot committed to damage, maybe even 2. It is going to have a hard time against that Leshek DPS. And the Leshek, meanwhile, is not taking much damage at all.
Nope, not at all. And he's probably most likely playing his newts onto that Vindicator as well. It looks like Fancypants are going after a Magus, does it look like? Oh, that's Fancypants' Magus taking DPS also. So they're splitting DPS with the Odin's Make-A-Wish team.
The Vindicator had not been firing. It has only just begun firing, and it's now targeting the Leshek. So it looks like a Leshek Vindicator brawl, except the Vindicator is a few seconds too behind, and that might be a difference maker. That said, this Leshek is taking massive chunks of damage. Now it does have a Zarm, which means over time it's going to be able to stabilize.
Is at half armor right now for Fancypants.
Oh yeah, it's been tackled by the Claw and the Retribution. It's got the Draugr on it as well. They have swarmed it. Meanwhile, it looks like Odin's Make-A-Wish is choosing to double down and go after this Vindicator. Surrounded by there's just a cloud of drones here. It looks like mostly rep drones from both sides on both battleships, each trying to hang on for dear life. But meanwhile, the Fancypants Aneros is about to drop.
And Oh man, he's holding. Oh nope, he's down.
Oh, they tried to move armor maintenance bots over to him, but too little, too late. I don't
Yeah.
even think they got one cycle of reps off.
I don't see. I don't
It was
think.
a big misplay.
Yeah, and I with that off the field, I don't see anything taken hard enough. Even with their bots that are out there, there's just not enough. And as you can
Fancypants is
see,
trying to counter by going after the enemy's arm, but that call is coming in way too late. They're about to lose their Magus, and with those links down, the
Oracle
Vindicator
2,
should crack.
They're just going whatever they want. They can go after both. They have enough support to still go after the small stuff that is now just the captain of Fancypants is going down. And he is down, and now for them, they only have a Augur Navy issue, a Oracle, and a Vindicator left for Fancypants, while Odin's Call has only lost one ship, just the Rook and Starconqueror.
Yeah.
That's it.
Fancypants is trying to turn their attention to this Draugr, which would be a very high value kill, but with the Zarmazed unencumbered, I don't think it's actually going to die.
Not at all, especially with this Oracle just getting absolutely slapped around. And he is down. All right. Yeah, that Draugr is just too little, too late. That would have been good about right away in the beginning of the match to go after a Draugr or their other Magus, but
yeah, you've got to commend the piloting of their Claw, Retribution, and Draugr. They just did a fantastic job getting tackles on the key targets, not wasting a single second.
Yeah, I've flown with Thor when I was in Odin's, and he is a very good pilot, and just showing his skill, and that whole Odin's team really executed that very well. Yeah, big shout out to Odin's. That Lashek there getting they're looking like they're just letting it take some damage there.
Yeah, they could be bait tanking him, or it could be their Zarm is asleep at the wheel.
I think he's just on autopilot, enjoying himself. I don't think he even needs. Oh, there we go. There's a big rep from the Zarm.
Yeah, Odin is basically on cleanup crew mode right now, on autopilot, about to claim this Vindicator. The Augur Navy will be soon to follow.
Absolutely.
Azure Argent in the stream chat saying the Zarm lost spool, and that may have been why the Lashak was briefly looking like it was in trouble.
Oh, okay.
Very plausible. Now, it'll be interesting to see which of these dies first. The Vindicator does have a lot of hull hit points here.
Oh, I think the Zog Navy dies first here. Let's see.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Oh, it's going to be close.
Boom, right before it.
Good call. And that is it. Great match for Odin.
Yeah, very, very good fight for both sides. Just some tactical errors on Fancypants' side. Questionable target calling, but they're going against a very, very good team in Odin's, Make-A-Wish. So they have some positive takeaways and what they can learn from what that last match for them at least.
And let's throw it back to ourselves on the desk.
Welcome back from the match, guys. Jintan, what do you think about that match?
Yeah, it was really interesting. It shows kind of some of the differences between the using 2 of your slots for ECM and like the cost that puts on you in terms of not giving you any tackle. Like you saw the problem there with the blue team was that all of red team's tackle could just scream into the back line and they had no way of stopping it. Obviously, you're never going to stop that claw. The interceptors are so quick and they have such a low signature.
I called it a stiletto mid-match. That's my bad.
Yeah, you just can't lock it down fast enough. It's always going to get to 50 kilometers. It's always going to get that scram off. But if you can potentially put a cruiser or something in the way and catch their destroyers as they come in, maybe you can keep those Kitsunes alive. But they just did not have that in the blue team comp because they went all in on that Vindicator on that top-end DPS. It was an interesting build, though. I really do like the Vindicator. There's so much power in those 90% webs in this format.
Yeah, but I mean, like that Kitsune, maybe if they would have, the other, let's say the other side had Kitsunes or jams or whatever of any flavor, that Vindicator kind of, if they're at range, that Vindicator is kind of, SOL. Even if he's at 0 sitting on something, he can't do anything if he's jammed, So it's just, I'm not a big fan of the Vindicator either, so I'll pick it apart as much as I can. But after having practices with Templars last AG, and then bringing curses, double curses with quad tracking disruptors and newts, it's not fun to be only be able to shoot 1,000 meters and not track at all.
The key thing with the Vindicator is it by itself, you're actually not bringing as much value as the ship really costs in terms of its points. That 90% web, yes, it can use it for its own guns, but its real value to the team is when it's slowing down something so the entire rest of the team can focus on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it needs two things for that. Some obvious targets to do it to. A battleship doesn't need any help for your team to track it. And
Right.
the other thing you need is like a bunch of high damage ships on your side that will benefit from the extra tackle that it's going to bring. And they didn't really have either of those here, presented by the enemy or from their own team to take advantage.
What do you guys think about the choice between a Zarm and a Neros as well? Because that's something that really stood out to me in this match, is that one team, with none of the armor logistics banned, both teams chose something different.
I think it goes with the flavor of the comp you're bringing it with. What's in that comp. They have a couple trig ships to support the Zarm reps. Decently tanked ships, and so it kind of comes down to what you're looking to bring, and are you going to be trying to the ships you bring, are they going to be able to catch before incoming DPS just overcomes your single spool, and will you spool up fast enough? With the Neros, it's really nice because the double prop and just to be able to swap targets pretty quickly without thinking about having to spool up. It's at optimum reps already, and it's a tough call. I think it's really comes down to whatever what core you're bringing.
Yeah, +1 for that. The tankier your core is, the better a choice the Zarm is going to be because it can ensure that you're catching reps and gives you time to spool up. It'll basically make your tanky team ultra tanky. But if you don't have a tanky team, it's going to make them dead because it just can't keep up.
Right.
All right, well, it looks like the teams are still setting up for this next match. So what else do you guys want to... what else have you guys noticed over the first couple of matches here? Is there any sort of pattern you're starting to see develop?
Yeah, I mean, especially with what's on field right now, there's a definite pattern of the drone meta. It's gonna be interesting to see this next match and see which one wins out because it's not necessarily a shield or a mirror matchup, but it's interesting how it'll play out and what works the best here.
One interesting thing to me is the number of teams that are trying the attack battle cruiser and how poorly that's working out for them. It's high damage battleship tracking, low hit points, but high speed battle cruisers, relatively high speed. And it just looks like they're either not applying or not living long enough or both.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be able to live long enough to get your transversal up and try to transmatch other ships that are smaller, and with battleship sized guns on a BC hull that's quick. That's sometimes for some people hard to do, but if flown right, it's pretty effective. You can do pretty well with it.
Yeah, we have not seen a huge amount of the battleships and battle cruisers as well. A max of about 2 of those on each of the teams so far. And in this match we're about to watch, there is a grand total of 1 cruiser one ship above cruiser class. And the both teams are ready, so I think we'll be good to go to the arena. Are we in the arena?
We are now.
All right, welcome. And as you can see, guys, we are seeing a matchup here between is that double or triple Ishtar? I think that's double Ishtar EOS going up against the triple healer EOS core. So both teams here are trying to do the same thing. They're trying to kite away with their drones. But the main difference here is that the Ishtar team is going to have a lot more control. They're going to be able to tackle stuff down. So they're going to be able to enforce their drones to apply. Whereas this shield team is going to have to kite off more. It's going to have to play a lot more defensive. A lot of this is going to come down to Ladrila in the Punisher as well.
Here we go.
They need to get a
Alright.
good tackle from the off.
What do we got going? What are they doing here? Both teams kind of jockeying right now, seeing what they're doing. Looks like the shield guys are the shield drones are heading back as they're sending drones forward, and the EOS and the other team, EOS is just pushing forward here, and looks like the drones are going after the EOS of Blue Dagger of Jovco Mining.
Yeah, and it looks like they're playing quite defensively here, Jovco Mining. They're not going in just yet. You can see the Punisher of Ladrila just hanging back. They're trying to make sure that their Neros keeps good position. It doesn't look like all of these drones are going to be enough to break the EOS right away. You can see there the Worm of Achilles as well, pulling around the right side, just presenting a bit of threat. Looks like, yeah, it looks like paid actors here might be going a bit more aggressively. They're pushing over the top here. Not moving right to the edge of the arena, leaving themselves some room to scatter around, actually.
I think they want to get on that Aneros. It looks like they're trying to go around the whole team of Jovco. And
Oh, look at
there
all
goes
of
the
those frigates.
hyena. Just gets deleted off of Jovco. Just gets deleted when the drones get on it, and that's what those Gila drones do. You know, it looks like Jovco is going after the Gila of Akov Stowe from paid actors. It's just so you getting that hyena off field is not good for for the armored drone team. It is
Yeah,
not,
you can see here that they're trying to make this counterplay here, Jovco. They're trying to put some DPS here on the Worm. They're trying to put it on the healer, but it's just not enough. It's not enough to really damage them. They cannot get their own tackle in range here to lock something down.
Yeah, and that Punisher.
Oh, look at the Aneros here. He's covered
he
in these
half
drones.
armor.
Oh, they're trying to clear some drones off here, but it's not going to be enough. He's just going to go down. There is very, very little they can do unless they can get this Aneros to an MJD beacon to give him a couple more minutes of life. And that's not going to happen here.
Yeah. If you can't hold down these, if you can't pin down any of these Gilas, let them roam free like they are in the Scimitar, who looks like they're going for a trade on the Scimitar right now, but he is just flying like a champion, just living to win. Big rep cycle. There goes down the Oneros. That's huge. That is huge for the paid actors.
Oh, and Ladrila, their Punisher, is right in the middle of those drones. They're getting reassigned. You can see, look at the DPS already down on him. He's just not going to be able to make an approach here. He's not going to be able
that
to tackle
Vexor is at half armor as well. And they just can't hold up without that Logi. It just shows right there that, once you got to make that Logi trade or you're not going to be able to win this match. There's no way, I don't see Jovco coming back from this whatsoever.
Yeah, the Scimitar here just comfortably sitting at the edge of the arena, 100k away from it. The drones are all falling back. They're trying to kill off some of these frigates and just free themselves, but it's not going to be enough. This was just excellent play here from the paid actors' side. They were able to identify the targets, swing around into the back lines, get within range of the Aneros, put all their drones in it, and then kite away.
And the hyena goes down for paid actors, so it isn't a clean. It's not clean for them. As right there, Nishtar goes down, and it is just seems like a cleanup here. But paid actors gonna have to go back and talk about why that hyena decided to get out of position. But maybe they just sent the drones on him and he just turned, and that's what happens.
Yeah, sometimes in these matches, you just pay it. You lose just a little bit of focus near the end when things are wrapping up, and oh, there goes your ship for no reason.
Yeah,
happens to everyone. Still, I don't think it's going to take a whole lot of people not paying attention for paid actors to go out here. They'd have to boundary, a couple more ships for things to really get spicy. That's an interesting thing, though. This is the second time now we've seen this Shield EOS. It seems to be the US time zone special.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty much all US time zone really does is have to kite around, on TQ. So it makes sense that they're pretty good. They're pretty good doing it here in the arena.
Yeah, I've got to say, this paid actors movement is fantastic. They're all turning in sync. They're not anchoring up. They're doing everything the right way and the hard way here.
And this EOS here just slowly chipping away. Still pretty tanky with all that DPS on there, but he's not long for this world.
I'm being assured by the hyena pilot that he was paying attention, so it must have just been those drones just making their final little wrecking shots. But
Yeah,
good fights are in local, and it looks like this match is over, with victory going to paid actors. Let's hand it back to ourselves in the studio.
Well, looks like the drone meta is established here. We'll see what the next teams bring. Interesting with the bans on the third one. I don't see any. Oh, okay, I see. So Shadow Cartel is banned. Ishtar, Gila, Bargas, Golem, so they don't want to see it. And because they got a fourth duplicate because of Wolves Among Strangers, brought a Blackbird, Gila, Scorpion, Widow, or Blackbird, Scorpion, Gila, Vindicator. So, yeah, Shadow Cartel looking like they don't want to deal with drones whatsoever. Wolves Among Strangers, they don't deal with drones or a little bit of jams and control. So I don't know. I'm thinking we'll see some kind of laser projection comp for Wolves Among Strangers, but Shadow Cartel, it could be anything. I think with those bands, it looks like they. I wonder if they'll be the first ones to bring some Friglogy. We'll see here.
Shadow Cartel reads like it could be them setting up for a Shield Rush comp.
I'm gonna be most interested in the Wolves Among Strangers comp. It's an interesting spread of bands.
Oh wow! They did bring something that you were interested in seeing, Jen.
Oh my, I am seeing that, but let's not tease the audience too much. Still, I do want to talk a little bit about the ECM meta, seeing as it is something we're going up against here. And that's the kind of difference between the teams that are bringing 2 ECM ships and the teams that are bringing 1 ECM ship. When you bring 2 ECM ships, the main advantage you get there is that you can jam out your opponent's ECM ship and then still potentially jam out their Logi ship. Because if you jam a hostile ECM ship, they can still jam you, and they're incentivized to put all of their jams on you. So if you both have ECM ships, in essence, sometimes they can cancel out. I've played in practice matches where a Griffin has locked out a Scorpion for the first 2 minutes of the match, and that's basically just turned the whole tide of things.
Now, the other advantage is a bit of redundancy, right? If you put all of your ECM points into one ship, it's quite easy to lock down. ECM ships are in general not super tanky, so your enemy has something very clear to dive on. We saw an earlier match where this kind of worked out in favor when you had a Rook combined with a Triglavian logistics ship. So they actually had a very reliable target that they could spool up on, and the extra reps helped keep it alive. So there is some metagaming to be done here where you can kind of bait your opponent into going after that single ship. But if you're not going that route, having your ECM ships be able to spread out and be okay if one of them drops and them have to refocus and reposition on a whole other target can buy you a lot of time.
It's also probably worth noting that one of the big fitting differences between the Anger Games and the Alliance Tournament is that racial jams are allowed. You do not have to bring multi-spectrals, which are limited on both range and your applicability, versus bringing the racial ones. And it leads to you being a lot more able to kite with your ECM comp than you can in the actual Alliance Tournament.
I like that. It allows teams to kind of make an educated guess about what their opponents might field, and if they're right, good on them. They prepped and predicted correctly, and they'll get a bit of advantage for that. And if they're wrong, they'll really screw themselves. I think that's fair.
Oh, racials were allowed? Okay, I'm probably thinking of a different tournament then, where it was multi-spectrals. My apologies, Twitch chat.
The downside of multis is, of course, while they have a pretty good jam strength against every race, they're not amazing. And when you figure a lot of ships, the key ships that you're going to want to jam are going to run ECCM. You really need every point of strength in your ECM you can get.
Yeah, I know you're allowed racials in this tournament, but not in the Alliance tournament, at least previously, I thought, but I'm probably wrong there. Anyway, I think ECM is also really interesting in these sorts of small matches because you can make the decision to basically turn off one part of your opponent's comp. You know, if you don't want to go for the Logi right off the bat, often you can jam out all of your opponent's tackle with just one ship and push things like Vindicators or Vigilance or other incredibly deadly threats right into the backline. And that can have so much impact.
Now let's talk briefly about the difference between the shield and the armored drone comps we saw in the previous match. The armor drone comps, a lot of damage, a lot of tankiness, but a key element is they need tackle to be able to fully apply all of that. The Gila-based, the Gila-based shield drone comp, as we've seen, they're able to kill things like micro-warp driving electronic attack frigates with no tackle whatsoever. I think that is a very key distinction between those two tactics, and the teams that are looking to bring them need to factor that into their comps. What we saw in the previous match was an armor comp that really didn't have a lot of tackle. The frigates they did have were on drone clearing duty, and so their damage wasn't really be able to fully apply.
What are the kind of options that you have with those utility mids as well in the armor drone comp Radicos? What are the sorts of options you can bring to modify that? Or modify what your comp's trying to do? Okay, I think Radicos might be indisposed for a couple of seconds here.
We can switch over though.
Yeah, no worries. We do have all the teams in the arena, so let's swap over and take a look at what's being brought. So, as we hinted at earlier, we have a really, really fun comp here from Wolves Amongst Strangers with Widow Draugr, Vigilant, Kikimora Vigilant, and Neros Kitsune. And this is something I've played against in scrims, and those Vigilants are so terrifying. They're incredibly good at dueling down frigates. Watch them to make a play into the backline right at the start here. And they're going up against Shadow Cartel with Tengu, Widow, and Cerberus. Oh, sorry, it's a Widow mirror match. Good God, I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
I've not even checked out what subs this Tengu has. I can't even tell off the top of my head. We'll have to see what it is on the match.
Zooming in
Check.
on it now.
You guys hear me now?
Yes,
we can hear you now.
Yay!
It might be an ECM one. I can't quite tell.
Well, the match is already off, so let's see who starts getting shot here.
Very excited about this Wolves Amongst Strangers comp. These Vigilants, very, very cool. They make amazing tacklers. And they're not exactly tanky, so they could be vulnerable here. But on the other hand, the Shadow Cartel fleet doesn't seem to be doing a ton of damage.
These Widows are just going to be doing so much work here, just spreading their jams, making sure that things cannot apply consistently to everything. You know, Bobby here in the Vigilant, he's getting shot, but there's probably only a couple of people who are even able to lock him right now. He is tackled down, though, really heavily. It looks like he's out of position. He burnt into the back line, like I said, going for that stalk, and they're going to need to do a lot of work here to keep him up.
Oh yeah, he is so far from his team. They're trying to rep him, but it's not really coming. He's at half armor and dropping slowly. Not really a lot of return fire coming into Shadow Cartel, which means their ECM is probably winning this battle right now. Their Widow is comfortably far from all the tackle. The Vigilants not going for him, remarkably. I think the Vigilants are trying to lock down the logistics frigates from Shadow Cartel, which is a good call in general, but they're not going to be able to hold on to them if this Widow jams them.
Yeah, it just doesn't look like they're even able to lock. Like this, I don't think this Vigilance guns are even firing right now. No, they are not. It's just sitting there waiting and hoping that at some point it's going to be able to lock down one of these frigates and kill it.
But we do have Jackie 003's Kieran. He is tackled down. He is taking a tremendous amount of damage. He's about to lose his shields. If they can successfully remove the logistics frigates from the Shadow Cartel team, that will be a tremendous win for Wolves Amongst Strangers. A worthwhile trade, I think.
There we go. Yeah, it's just these two destroyers, the Kikimora and the Draugr, just pushing him around the arena. And there we go, though. That's Bobby and the Vigilant down. That's 12 points, and that's a lot of the potential DPS off the field here for the Wolves Amongst Strangers team. They're going to need to free up Ginger and start getting him onto something of importance here.
Now
Especially now that their Draugr is tackled away from the rest of the fight.
Meanwhile, the scalpel from oh my gosh, the scalpel just got caught and evaporated without the support from his Kieran buddy. He's just gone. This gives Wolves Among Strangers a really strong logistics advantage because their Aneros is absolutely untouched and unthreatened. Nothing is anywhere near him.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they're not going onto that Widow now at this point. They should have the ability to lock him down. They've taken enough tackle off the field, but it seems like all of their tackle is just trading off position. You can see here this Draugr, he's locked down by the Jackdaw, although I think that Jackdaw just went down. Yeah, he did. So he's just been able to free himself now. He should be able to get repped up by this Aneros.
He's burning back into the Aneros' range. He's burning back into the Aneros' range. Super smart, but he's also going for tackle. A really good play. And now that it seems like their team has stabilized, maybe the Widow is doing some work here.
Look at Eliana in the Tengu there. Look at how much damage he's taking. Already in 2/3, 3/3 shields, just going down faster than you'd expect a Tengu too. He must be fit for a lot of damage here as he is going down.
You can see him boosting back with that local shield booster, but not nearly enough. Without the support from the logistics frigates, he is gone. Those Vigilants paying dividends deep into the match here.
Yeah, it just looks like these widow the jams just are not landing enough now at this point, this late on in the match. They were able to push out, kill off some of the support, and just control the match from there. You can see here Ginger Foxtrot, he's in half armor now, but he's been being shot for a good while. I don't think he's in danger of going down anymore.
No, Shadow Cartel seems to have hit a point where they just don't have enough damage to punch through the Aneros' reps. Even if he does get jammed, they're not able to apply kill pressure.
And there goes the Stalk as well. That's another critical piece, just another little bit of boost. This is pretty much game here for Wolves Among Strangers, unless the Shadow Cartel are able to do something absolutely out of the box.
It's just a cloud of drones around that Vigilant, a lot of rep bots, some jam bots.
Yeah, the Cerberus is starting to get tackled here, but it's going to take a while for him to go down.
He is tackled, though, so it's going to happen. The Widow is not really pulling range either. I assume he is pinned down.
Yeah, it looks like the other Widow has him. Oh no, they're just both Widows just sitting in the center, ECMing and nossing each other. A true honorable duel.
Looks like the Vigilant is now on the Widow. They may have swapped over to him, or it could be that he's jammed. Difficult to say, but it looks like the Draugr is holding hard tackle on the Serp. So both of these ships unable to escape without any logistics support and without very strong local tanks really on either ship. I'd say this is pretty much in the bag for Wolves Among Strangers. A very daring comp, very well executed.
Yeah, really, really good. And I think people underestimate the amount of communication it takes to run an ECM comp. There's so much that has to go back and forth between each team. Oh, we can see DPS here finally going on the Aneros. Wow, look at how fast he's going down. Good God. You wish they'd done that a little earlier in the match, seeing how fast this is happening.
Now, they'll probably relocate some rep drones over to him, but if they don't, that is going to be a really big problem. And there's the Serb dead. Let's see if the Aneros can comfortably rep after that. How much of that damage was the Serb and how much was the Widow?
Yeah, that was
most of it was the Serb, because now that Aneros is perfectly fine.
It might have been rapid heavies from the Widow as well. I don't know. I haven't checked his missiles. Let me, you know what? I'm not even going to try and do that because I'll just get mocked by Twitch chat for being wrong. Still, there we go. You can see some chunks going back on the Widow of Shriner there, but it's not going to be enough. Not with this Aneros able to rep him back up. And good fights are already being called in local. Wow, what an interesting choice there of ships as well, with the Draugr and the Kikimora and the Vigilance. You know, there's just so much DPS there for us. It's almost like they're trying to fit as much DPS as they can per point. But let's head back to the studio and dissect this some more.
Well, we've got to say the highlight of that match absolutely has to be the vigilance from Wolves Among Strangers. A rare sight in the Anger games so far, but man, they delivered in this match.
Yeah, they really did. There was a lot of power there still from the other team. You know, that you saw how quickly that Aneros went into low armor there. If they'd just been able to catch onto him or grab, or even just project onto him earlier on in the match, it could have been completely different.
Yeah, I mean the vigilance not going to hold up if the Neros goes. So if they would have made that decision earlier, it would have been huge difference, a huge swing, just like you said.
I think they were probably thinking, to be fair, thinking with their heads. They wanted to protect their logistics frigates, which the Vigilants are a tremendous threat to. They had that one Vigilant burned so far away from his team. Shooting him was a good call. They were able to get him quite deep. But it looked like the Aneros got close enough to land some reps on him, and it took them a long time to finally bring him down. And once he was down, they thought, okay, we killed one Vigilant, let's go for the other one. But that's when they really needed to switch off. Big
Yeah.
bullet sponges. They were probably had max tank in the lows, not a single damage mod.
I could also confirm that Tengu was in fact a Jam Tengu as well, which is a really, really interesting choice as well, with an absolute buttload of links on it. A really, really interesting fit there from Shadow Cartel. I'm curious to see if we see more of that side of things going forwards, with ECM being so prevalent in this format.
5 links. Unbelievable.
Well, that Tengu just didn't have the tank to stay.
Looks like it was running 4 of them at a given time. Oh, very, very interesting Tengu fit for sure.
Right.
Yeah, and almost all of that is going to be open here in the next match between Aggressively Midtier and Fancypants. Two teams we've seen before now. We are entering the repeat section, so every team you're going to be seeing from now on is a team you've already seen play. So it'll be a question of, are they going to bring something new, or are they going to bring something borrowed? Do you reckon we'll see either team repeat a comp from their first match, or are they going to try and show something different?
Well, it looks like Aggresssively Midtier has banned Scimitar, Curse, Armageddon, so we won't see that EOS comp unless they decide to bring like an Osprey or a Basilisk, but that usually doesn't do too well, so
At this stage, I would be surprised to see them repeat comps. I think one of the benefits of this practice is to try out a couple things that you're trying, but I suspect we won't see maybe their toppest tier comp. There's also, of course, going to be a lot of mind gaming because they will have watched each other's matches and known at least one comp in each other's arsenal and probably put some bans maybe around that, but also based on the comp that they're trying to bring to try to protect it from its counters.
right. I mean, there's so many, and there's so many things to show. I mean, when we come to opens, we're not bringing anything that we will show anybody. Bans, it's a good thing I think in opens just to get a feel for the meta and see what people bring. I mean, not if it's against the people that you are going against. It's just whoever puts up with and see what they bring, and why, and like banning out control because you want to be able to kite around, or banning out ECM because you just hate it, or newts. There's sometimes a trend with certain teams. So
Yeah, the bans in this format are a very difficult proposition because it's very difficult to ban out any composition in particular unless you're willing to dedicate 2 or 3 bans to it. And doing that kind of opens you up to get if you're doing that, you're signaling super hard against what
what
you're
you don't
hoping
want
the
to
only
see
team
or
doesn't
hope,
want.
yeah,
It doesn't bring. So you've kind of got to just take out one ship that you think is the most important in a comp you don't want to see, and then just go with a bluff for your other 2 or something along those lines. And there's a lot of meta involved in that I honestly, as a captain, I don't even quite understand yet.
Yeah, it's a learning process. I think it's this is my been on a few teams, and it's hard to always see what the bands are going to predict. Predict bands and what they're going to bring. It's more of just kind of banning out things on a general, like, oh, this could be an issue and this could be an issue, and then throw out a random ban. Like it's kind of hard, and and it's like it's like you're learning every day. Every time you go against someone, you're always learning.
It's more art than
Something
science
new.
as well.
Right.
You really have to put a fine touch on it. Even if you get your perfect set of bands, it's not going to mean the match is going to go your way, and it's not going to mean your opponent is going to play ball like you think they will.
100%.
Well, are there any ships that you're expecting to see now, kind of going forwards? I think the Vindicator is one we haven't seen a lot of. Or, sorry, not the Vindicator. The Abaddon is one we haven't seen a lot of that I was kind of expected to see more of by now because it is such a powerful T1 battleship. It's got the projection and it's got insane DPS and tank numbers. You're looking at, the 150, 160k HP and potentially upwards of 1,000 DPS and even more than that heated.
Yeah, theory crafting wise, it looks like a very strong choice, but we haven't even seen it come out at all or be banned really. Unless, well, was it banned in any of the previous matches?
It was banned in the first match, but it's been open in all of the previous 3, and we have not seen it yet.
And I think it's an attractive option also because it's not a bad counter to Aguila, honestly. It should be able to track them. It hits their damage hole and has the tankiness to withstand the drones. It's cheap, so you can bring a beefy lower end that might also be able to tank those drones. You could do worse.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't look like either of the 2 teams that we're about to watch have decided to take our personal desires into accord. So let's hand it over to Alec and Radikos in the arena.
As soon as we get over here. All right. Thank you, sir. So here we go. If you don't ban Gilas out, you bring Gilas. These 2 teams know exactly what to do here. Going to be interesting to see the variation that Fancypants brought with a Basilisk. I was just touching base on that. With a Scimitar being team, I didn't think we would see it the same, but looks like I was mistaken on this one.
Yep, and on the other side of things, we have Fancypants here with a more traditional setup than we've seen. It's got the Shield Eos, 2 Gilas, Orthrus, Basilisk, Bifrost, Hyena, and it's very interesting as a set of choices. I actually think comp-wise, Aggressively, Midtier may have them outmatched. Fancypants investing a lot of points into tackle with this Orthrus and Hyena that it honestly doesn't need.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The Hyena is a good pick, I think, for this Gila comp because it can be your sole tackle ship without it should be able to kite pretty well. Has probably a TP. I bet you it's like double TP, probably web on it, and so it'll help. But yeah, here we go. They are off. We are off here. We see Aggressively Mid-Tier burning straight into the Fancypants team. Probably trying to get something caught, most likely the Basilisk if they were smart.
Now this
Hyena's taking some DPS.
Yeah, that Hyena got caught out. I don't know if he missed the starting gun or what, but he was not very speedy.
He is deleted.
Yeah, goodbye. Now I think on the plus side, he's not a huge loss for their team. They will still be able to do most of the things that they need to do even without him. I think the bigger risk is their Basilisk now coming under a lot of fire, already in 1/3 shield and struggling to repair.
I mean, he should be getting some big reps here, but he is just getting overpowered, it looks like. Yeah, the road.
I'm not seeing a lot of boost coming off him at all, really.
Yeah, he is just getting chunked. Another boost coming in a little late, but it doesn't matter. Deleted. Oh man, a Basilisk goes down just like that. Wow! And right away they switch to they're going for the trade on the other side, but they're also splitting damage in between a Scalpel and a Orthrus, which is pretty good. But that Orthrus without a Basilisk, it is going to eat crap. And on the other side, Vorian Winter is also an Orthrus taking a lot of DPS as well.
Now, very key to the Rote Scalpels, they're split up. They're not able to combine their repping power onto Vorian, so he will probably drop here. But it looks like a trade Orthrus for Orthrus, and you've got to think that Rote's coming out the better end of it here. Oh, now he is catching.
Yeah,
Vorian
he is.
Actually may not drop here.
I think they got him here. On the other side, Sim Such is just burning and living to win here. And deep hull. Looks like he's a 33% hull. And looks like they have switched their DPS onto Blacklist 2JZ on the Fancypants team.
What happened there was as Vorian was just hitting armor, Rotan Osgold and the Scalpel, who had been trying to kite away from the enemy team, made an abrupt turn and beelined over to Vorian, probably overheated everything in his ship to try to get reps on him. He managed to save his life.
Oh, well. That Gila is just gonna get taken down here because they're focusing so much on Sims. Oh, no reps. You just can't hang. You just can't hang with. You just can't do it.
The only reason Sim Such managed to stay alive is he just burned. He's on the total other side of the arena from all the action here.
Oh, but looks like there's a Gila Cyclo Hexanol is into armor, but he is getting reps from those scalpels. Just showing that just having little tiny logistics on field is going to help out a lot more than bringing a Basilisk and getting absolutely stomped here by a superior team. Wow. The execution is just huge.
Now, the survivability of those Tech 1 frigates coming into play here as they're managing to dance in and out of the opposing fleet's damage. Anytime it looks like they're about
Tech
to be
2,
threatened,
Tech 2.
they're just pulling out of there.
The scalpels are Tech 2, but yeah, it's they can just, real good display of just how well if you pay attention to your flying and making sure you're calling the right targets, how that can be a huge win factor in this tournament here. And the EOS looks like he is down as well. They're down to one Gila, the lone Gila, the devil himself. Going to see if he can pull it out here, but it looks pretty grim.
The devil is about to go D tier as he drops. Oh, it warped out. Excuse me. There he goes. Fantastic match. Congratulations, Aggressively Midtier. And in particular, shout out to their the Scalpel pilots, Rochen Osgold and Rima Abriel. Tremendous flying.
Yeah, they are I would say one of the most powerful duo when you have Frigology that I know of in all of the tournaments. They've been together a long time. They communicate very well. They're both extremely good pilots and know what they're doing. And that just goes to show with enough practice and you can do a lot of work with those Tech 2 frigs.
What would you say is the main difference when you're crafting a comp around the logistics frigates versus logistics cruisers? Obviously, you have the range kind of to pay attention to there, but spending 2 people on it as well must have a huge impact, right?
It does. It reshapes the math for your entire team. It also reshapes your tactics a little bit. The Tech 2 frigates, they're powerful, but you can't really effectively protect them. They're just too small and they rely too much on their mobility for you to really build a team around protecting them. So what you'll usually do is kind of put them in and let them do their own thing, and you'll focus your team around what your core DPS is going to do. Whereas the Tech 2 cruiser, it's tankier, it's going to project reps further, and it's going to give you more reps, but at the same time, it's a lot easier to catch and hold down and ultimately kill. So more of your comp has to be based around screening it, it's making sure it doesn't get tackled, and also putting usually logistics drones or some other way to keep it up if it does receive damage.
Mm-hmm.
Unless, of course, it's a basilisk, then you get the worst of both worlds.
Well, that also depends on the pilot, and if they've done it before. Because the basilisk can be pretty strong and do its job if you if you just got to get crafty with the fit, I would say. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm too brave to want to bring a basilisk in tournament format.
Well, the advantage of the Bassi over the Semi, the Bassi is going to have a technically stronger tank, but I think in practice, the Scimitar's mobility is a lot more valuable.
Oh yeah, it is. It's exceptional.
There's one other slight advantage to bringing the Bassi over the Simi, and that's that the Bassi adds another Caldari jam requirement for your opponents to spread out. A lot of people are going, 2 or 3 Caldari jams so that they can ensure that they win that first jam war against hostile ECM ships. If you bring a Bazzi as well instead of a Simi, it can be very, very hard to have enough racial jams to take out logistics and ECM at the same time.
Yeah.
We have a question from Twitch chat. The Scimitar has better cap? ?
Yeah.
Not really. So neither the Scimitar nor the Basilisk will be able to run all of its reps without some kind of cap boosting or cap. And I guess in the Scimitar's case, you could kind of do it with cap in the lows. But in that case, you're going to be compromising how many overall reps you're going to be able to put out. In practice, you'll probably want to cap booster both of them. The Basilisk will feel that less because it has a little more in the mid slots to deal with. But as a base, I believe the Bazzi might have a slightly stronger cap. Conceptually, I think in practice it has stronger cap. But both of them are going to have to make some sacrifices to get cap stability when they're not going to have anyone to cap transfer to them.
Well, fortunately, this match is not going to, potentially, unfortunately, this match is not going to actually let us see a Scimitar, as Odin's have banned that, along with the healer, and it seems to be their signature ban, the Vendetta. And they're going up against TURBOFEED or Glory, who have banned the Abaddon, Barghest, and Balgorn.
Okay, so 2 control bans and a big DPS tank ban.
Yeah, and Odin's with a power ban, a healer ban, the Scimitar, which is taking away Kite, and then absolutely giving no information at all with their 3rd ban.
Well, I think the Gila ban certainly sensible given the way we've seen the tournament progress so far today.
Yeah, we have seen an absolute preponderance of that ship so far this evening.
And they've been dominant. They've won most of the matches they're in. Except for the Course of the Mirror matches where one of them has to lose. If you're not going to bring a counter to the Gila, it seems like the ban is the next best thing.
Yeah,
like we said at the start, that countering the Gila in this format is very difficult.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't seen more Paladins or the general projection comps, which tend to be the counter to these sort of drone kite comps, especially the shield variant with the EOS. I can't imagine that it would live too long under some of the double Apocalypse Navy comps that we saw in the first open practice, for example.
Yeah, those Conflag L and Scorch are formidable offensive weapons, and they hurt a lot. Be interesting to see if any is Oracle ban on this.
It's kind of a weird thing to say, but Scorch, by far the best Tech 2 ammo in the game. It's like a weird thing to have a best of, but yeah, if you're a Mar pilot and you're training Tech 2 lasers, you're unlocking one of the best combinations of damage, projection, and tracking that you can get.
Yeah.
And if you can match
trans, if you can match trans, it is you are pushing down. You're putting down anything you're shooting at, especially when you have 2-3 of them on field like that. It is scary. Now, I don't think they're as useful in this because the Oracles just don't have the tank, but Abaddons and Apox or Apox even, they will do some work.
All right, well, we have the teams getting ready on the grid. I think that's everyone. Yep, so let's head over to the arena and take a look at things. So here we have the red team bringing Leshak, Magus, Draugr, Claw, Retribution, Rook, Zarmaz. I think this is pretty close to a team we saw earlier. It might be them. Yep, this is the same team comp that they brought previously. So they're going to be needing to defend that Rook as much as possible. What have the blue team brought here?
Meanwhile, TurboFeed or Glory, a very, very cool bring, an Absolution. Haven't seen a ton of that, but it's a fantastic ship. Orthrus, Bifrost, Vexor, Mauler, Hyena, Maulus.
You're
Kind of
reading.
a weird comp here.
Yeah, that's just because it's not updated as sheet yet. The Bifrost and the Orthrus.
Yeah, when the countdown's starting, you can already see the boosts going off. What do you think the first primaries are going to be here? Obviously, Thor is going to decide most of things here for the red team. He's going to just burn across the arena, find something probably, and pick it off. I have to imagine that Maulus is going to be his focus, though. He's going to be able to duel that down probably even on his own without any support from his team.
Updated enemy comp here. TurboFeed Glory, Lashak, Absolution, Rediva, Magus, Vexor, Mauler, Maulus. Still a bit of a strange comp, but we do have the Lashak mirror match. The Zarm versus the Rediva. Obviously, the Zarm is going to have the edge there.
Yeah,
Ooh, it's
you'd
gonna
be surprised
tricky.
though. I think the Rodiva has a lot of it has pretty similar rep power. The thing is, it is just so fragile. If you're able to get on top of it, that Rodiva will die almost immediately.
And now we're seeing the TurboFeeder Glory Magus taking a heck of a pounding, down to 1/3 armor, 25% armor. Oh, he is burning away from it, but he is dropping more quickly than he's running.
I know he's going to get to the edge. He's going to get there, maybe. Oh, wow, going into hull there. What is just tapping him down? He's not catching enough transversal here.
He did manage to get one more burst off. The Rediva has started to rep him now, but whew, that was a very close call.
I think that was just the Lashak. He managed to catch that final blow just before the Magus ran out of his range. That was incredibly good piloting there from Chris to know where the Lashak's fall off was going to be and break that spool.
Meanwhile, TurboFeed seems to be splitting focus between the Rook and the Draugr. Tain Utama's Draugr is taking some serious damage here.
Oh, look at that, though. The Magus already repped back to full armor, and he is diving right back into the match here, trying to tackle something down.
Yeah, he's got the full spool, so he might as well put himself in harm's way. And he's now popped some Hobgoblins out, so Magus DPS is going to be added to the fight shortly. Let's see what he goes for.
Oh, and it looks like the Lashak is now switched onto this Vexor, so he's going to try and spool up and try and take this out. That's a good call. This Vexor is probably providing a lot of utility and a lot of damage for only 6 points, and he's going to be easy to take down. Star Conqueror here sitting really healthy, though. Look at that Rook.
Thor is drawing the attention of all the light drones on the TurboFeeder Glory team. They are now swarming around him, but his speed will make it difficult for them to apply a lot of damage. Unless he turns, which he is doing a lot of, and he is starting to take a bit of fire now. The Zarm may, if the Zarm switches over to him, that could open up an opportunity elsewhere.
Look at that absolute swarm of rep drones that are about to land on top of the claw, though. Those are going to keep him alive, even under all this light drone pressure, I think.
The Zarm has switched over to him. It has opened up an opportunity on the Rook, which they're pouncing on now. The Rook down to 75% armor and dropping. Also, the Lashak of Ensign Leon is taking a pounding. They may have outplayed the Zarm here by breaking his spool.
Look at that as well, the Absolution. He's in perfect position there, just dumping loads of conflag onto that Rook's face. He's managed to sneak his way into the backline somehow, and whilst he is now tackled by
out of armor, he is dropping hella fast. Just absolutely chunking him.
Wow, that Lashak is going... That is insane.
They've managed to move some armor drones on top of him. He may stabilize, but it's going to be at the cost of this Rook, which is still taking a ton of fire.
This must be a resist fit or something like that. I have no idea. I've never seen a Lashak fall this quickly.
He's getting heavily neuted. He may have maybe active armor repair or active armor hardeners, maybe.
Oh, he's pulling it back now, but look, that Rook is dipping into structure here. They're forcing the Zarmaz to make a choice. Which one of your friends is going to die? And he's chosen the Rook. It seems the Zarmaz has also said, fuck ECM, along with chat.
Now, that said, the Rook is stabilizing, but to your point, the Zarm can't have all three of these ships living. The Claw, the Rook, or the Lashak, one of them is going to die. It's the Rook first, the Claw is short.
Oh, and the Zarmaz just swatched his rep back onto him as well as he died. That's potentially going to put this Lashak in danger because he will have need to re-spool on him.
Meanwhile, Mark Resurrectus' Absolution is taking some fire, but I think that they're going to win the DPS race here.
Yeah, they're putting DPS on that Abso, as you say, but it's just look at the difference in ticks. You know, every single thing that lands on him is just edging him down, whereas this Lashak is bouncing up and down like a pogo stick.
And now there's a swarm of light drones around this Draugr, which is dipping into structure. And the Draugr is down. They've just lost their links.
God, this is, yeah.
Lashak finally falls. The Zarm, having to make too many choices, just couldn't keep him up. You're really experiencing very viscerally the drawbacks of having Trigali and Logi in the core of your comp here.
Yeah, and now all of these cruisers are free as well to put pressure on the Zarmaz and on his positioning, and just to try and lock stuff down. It's only a matter of time here before they're able to kind of position themselves in a way that there is no way he can move, jamming him against the bottom corner of the arena there. And there we go. Yep, there we are. That's the Mala taking out the Claw. The Vexor's going to be free now to move around and tackle whatever he wants.
Well, that said, it seems like the DPS is somewhat stabilizing now. It might take a while for them to reorient to these other targets, but I think they may be going for the Zarm. They're trying to chase him away, it looks, with the Vexor and the Lashak. The Zarm is pulling range, not really under threat yet. Meanwhile, the Mega is dropping quickly. The Zarm not applying reps to him. Oh, wait, there he goes.
Yeah, I think at this point it's just an exercise in seeing if you can last till the end of the match timer. You know, the Zarm will still be able to rep to the same degree he's been repping this whole match. The question is whether or not his friends can still mitigate any amount of DPS.
But most tellingly, they're not going to have the DPS needed to actually get a kill. That is what is going to seal this match.
Yeah, something I'm surprised about is the fact that Thor Janison didn't go for this Maulus at any point in the match. It was almost never pressured, and he was just free to sit down and apply his damps for almost the entirety of the game.
And I do wonder, I mean, I would love to know from anyone on that team, was he res damping the Zarm, and was that adding some...
You can't add scripts.
Oh, can't add scripts, never mind. Well, actually, that's even better for them then, because it was delaying the switching and locking ability. You know, if they were able to break the lock of that Zarm, or if he had to make choices between who to have locked. Yeah, that's, even if he, you know, was able to correct himself being out of range, if his range got damped down, it would then take him that much longer to correct the mistake by, you know, delaying the lock, especially on those smaller ships.
Yeah, and Odin's had so much so many small ships here to make plays with as well, with that Retribution and the Magus and the Draugr. They should have been able to kind of make more out of this tackle war, I think. That was probably their route to victory here. You can see there Shad in the Retribution finally going down. I think he was able to get off a few rep cycles here. It looks like the Zarm's been able to spool up on him, so he might live he might live. Never mind.
Oh, will the Zarm go down? He's finally taken some damage.
Yeah, the Zarm is such a powerful ship, though. The thing is, it's so tanky. That's one thing that I think is underestimated about it. It just has nearly... Oh, and the Zarm's boundaried. Not tanky enough for the boundary, unfortunately. But, you know, you're looking at 60k EHP, and then you can get another 30k EHP from your Ansil, plus whatever your rep drones are giving you. It's so much, you know. This thing can last for minutes at a time, even being shot by a full drone team.
That is a very tremendous reason to bring it, because if you're afraid of your Logi getting headshotted, you know, the Zarm, or even the Redeemer, definitely ways to go. They are, generally speaking, beefier than their counterparts. You know, they're going to pay for that in other ways with the spool up time, but if you're worried about them getting shot, the spool up doesn't really matter. And that's the match. Congratulations, TurboFeed or glory.
Let's head back to the studio and dissect this one a bit more.
Well, what a match we just had right there. It looked like Looked like Odin's had a couple chances to live in that one, keeping that rook alive, but not not keeping that Lashek as a primary uh, thing to rep for the Zarm. You can't win when your main DPS goes off the field and they have the exact same ship on the other side. So
Yeah, this was a case of neither team being outcomped, but one team being outplayed. TurboFeed was at a very critical point in the match, came up with a way to throw that Zarm off his game, and that's really what they needed. It created opportunities for them to pull ahead.
Yeah, I am really curious to see that Lashak fit from the red side though. That must have been a almost pure resist and DPS fit or something like that. Either that or the blue side was putting out a lot more DPS than it looks like they should have on paper.
I'm sure the enemy Lashak was fully spooled on him, but even then, he dropped hella fast. Maybe he wasn't getting any reps at all. I'm not sure what was going on there.
yeah, I'm guessing it was a resist with no plate on it, but just by the way how fast it went down.
Now, what would be the advantage of doing that, Radikos?
Of what?
Of foregoing a plate on your battleship like that.
Well, just giving your time for a Zarm rep to spool up on you. You would think, just to be able to take that DPS while your Zarm is trying to spool up. But it does get a little slower and bloom your sig a little bit. But I think if you would have had I think the biggest thing in that match was switching to the rook at the last second. I mean, you can't expect to save the rook when your Lashek is taking DPS as well, and maybe the Malus had something to do with the Zarm not be able to rep the Lashek or right away, and then maybe that's why it got caught, or went down so quick and didn't get caught by Laji, but. You need that little buffer in the Lashek, I think, to when you're bringing the Zarmazad to survive the initial weight of the spool up.
Especially with the recent buffs to battleships, and they get a hit point bonus for fitting plates. It's sort of weird to not fit one. I'd be really curious if that was or wasn't the case. The maneuverability advantage of leaving it off, I mean, yeah, it makes your Lashak more effective at getting on top of something, but what you're losing for that is so much more than it was before. It seems like a fitting choice made a couple patches ago. Maybe they just didn't update the thinking around it.
All right, well, we've only got 2 matches left to go on this evening, unfortunately. But next up, we've got paid actors going up against Wolves Amongst Strangers. Paid actors having banned the Zarmazd, Paladin, Scorpion, and Wolves Amongst Strangers having banned the Armageddon Vindicator Curse. And these seem like just pure power bans on either side to me. These are some of the most powerful ships in the format, with the exception of the Healer.
And the Curse, I think, is a curious choice. It hasn't been brought. It's pretty valuable for the points that it brings. Makes me think they're definitely afraid of people being able to concentrate E-War on a high number of really powerful damage application ships. So we might be seeing a multiple battleship comp, perhaps, or some heavy investment in attack battlecruiser, something like that.
I just want to note here that he can cheat since he can see what's on grid already.
I can, but I don't win anything if I do, so...
And the bans are posted in a spreadsheet that we have access to, Jalen. I don't think there's anywhere publicly accessible with it.
Well, they will be on stream once we switch over to the arena.
All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the arena. And so, Forsaken Empire here have brought a composition that I really, really like the look of, and that is double Hyperion, double Blackbird, Nemesis, Purifier, and Neros. This is an insane amount of DPS and next to no application for it here from the paid actors side. What have Wolves Amongst Strangers bought for us, Alex?
Wolves Among Strangers, a very interesting comp. Rattlesnake, Triple Gila, Double Scalpel, Jackdaw. Not really relying on much tackle or anything like that. I imagine the Jackdaw is more there for electronic warfare than anything else. The Gilas and the Rattlesnake, for the most part, do not require any help. They will be able to apply just fine. And I think these Nemesis and Purifier, not long for this world.
Yeah, the Blackbirds are going to be really an interesting part of this. If those healers manage to get drones on top of it as well later on in this game, that's going to be an absolute disaster. But there's an option for them to potentially jam out the drones here. If they just spread jams across those healer drones, they will get confused and they'll have to be constantly reassigning them. And it's so easy to miss that during the middle of a match if you're not paying attention.
Yeah, absolutely. A quirk of having the Gila and the Rattlesnake having all their power in just 2 drones. They're pretty much just as hard to kill DPS wise as the ship, but E-War wise, actually much easier to maintain your jams and figure out who's jamming what.
There we go, though. We see all of those drones pouring right into the back lines there. What are they going on there? It looks like the Rattlesnake?
Meanwhile, the Hyperion of Windjackal taking an extreme amount of damage. He is already down to just about half armor, actually dipping a little bit below half before his self-reps pulled him back up. This is going to be interesting here. The Aneros needs to keep pace with the Hyperions, but if it gets too close, it could find itself on the business end of those drones itself.
Yeah, this Windjackal and the Hyperion there, you can see him going super, super low, but it looks like Anna will be able to get a grapple onto the Amadol in this Gila at least. That's going to be something. And it looks like Windjackal is starting to potentially tank here. You can see those self-reps coming in here, coming in hard, but he's only going to have so much heat and so much pace to play with.
Keep an eye on the Jackdaw of Victor Maitland from Wolves Among Strangers. He is in the back line now. He is circled around, and now he's going to probably make an attack run on these bombers and possibly the Aneros. Maybe he doesn't have E-War. Maybe he does have tackle. If so, that could be very disastrous.
Yeah, the bombers here, they need to communicate with these Blackbirds, and they need to make sure that the Blackbirds are spreading jams across to these Jackdaws. The Hyperions are now in position. They don't need to be jamming off the tackle on this paid actor's side anymore. Sorry, on the Wolves Among Strangers side. They need to be jamming off the DPS and letting their side stabilize. And it looks like they're able to do that here. You can see that bomber, he's still in half structure, still in half armor, but he's living. Although DPS is now getting swapped into the Neros.
Yep, and that disaster scenario that I mentioned at the start has happened. The Aneros is now in range of the drone damage, and probably a little bit more, and it's not handling it well. Dropping dangerously low, he's trying to rep up, but he can't. The Aneros is down.
Wow, that was so fast, and just a few drones were able to take him out as well. That is unfortunate.
Yep,
he
the
just got
bombers
out of position.
And in that case, it might help that Rattlesnake stabilize.
God, yeah, just one, a few more shots of living, and he probably could have won this match for his team. Still, these Hyperions are going to be surprisingly tanky, even without the Aneros. The problem is going to be these Blackbirds. They are not long for this world. The second they start swapping DPS onto them, they're going to die.
With a Rattlesnake may join them. It's in deep armor now. It's trying to rep. It's trying to get reps, but into structure. It's a race between the Hyperion and this Rattlesnake. The Hyperion does drop. Will it be enough to keep this Rattlesnake alive?
Yeah, I don't think it is. This Rattlesnake is going to die, but they're going to have to trade so much for it. They've traded one Hyperion, now a second Blackbird, and and this Hyperion is tackled out of position now. Ugh. Oh, it's going to be a tough one if paid actors come back. They would need to do so much here.
Yeah, to your point, the Hyperion a bit out of position. It's going to have a hard time getting on top of another priority target. Might just be stuck. Meanwhile, Achilles, his Purifier, is dropping, and the Hyperion having a hard time keeping up with just its local reps.
Yeah, it was just unfortunate, an unfortunate choice of ships here for the paid actors side. Those bombers just did not have a huge amount of deep targets to apply to. Once that Rattlesnake went down, what else were they going to shoot anyway?
And their first Blackbird really curious. We were talking a lot about the jams initially here as this Blackbird goes down. I gotta wonder what the Wolves Among Strangers ban strategy was here. It looked like the 3 ships they banned didn't really have a lot of threat to their comp. Maybe it was trying to throw off paid actors here and it just backfired on them.
Yeah, I don't really know, but it's, I like the comp. I feel like they had a lot of potential, but they just weren't able to lock anything down and really apply to it with those Hyperions. That was the problem. There was no tackle there burning ahead of them and really clearing a path. You can see now, look at that healer. Look at how quickly he went down once that Hyperion started properly applying to him. If they'd have been able to do that, a minute, 2 minutes earlier in the match, it would have a completely different complexion.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the downside of the Hyperions when you don't have any tackle in your comp. They use their low end for extra DPS with those stealth bombers, and once they popped the Rattlesnake, which is kind of their concept with the Hyperion battleship damage and the bomber battleship damage, they were kind of left with a now what scenario where they really didn't have anything great to go toward. Meanwhile, their logistic ship was totally free to just get pounded on, and they weren't able to bring it back.
Yeah, and they had no real way to deal with these scalpels, I guess their hope would have been to use the newts and the grapples from the Hyperion eventually to wear them down. And once they could shoot through it, once you get this late in the match, you can see it's just adding so much extra HP to the Wolves Among Strangers side. It's making this grind take so much longer.
Yeah, I think their strategy was probably to just try to punch through those frigate reps, which works initially. Like, they did get the Rattlesnake down, but they don't really have an answer to remove them from the field. So to your point, they're just continually adding more and more hit points to this already tanky team.
Yeah, and the triple healer once again reigns supreme over its opponents. Let's head back to the studio and find out what we've got to look forward to in our final match of the evening.
I just want to touch base on that match. Those Gilas were dropping. The first one dropped real quick, and that second one, I think it was a close one. If that Gila would have dropped, that second Gila would have dropped in time, even with the scalp reps on it, there would have been enough points, or enough time for the Hyperion to start repping itself and possibly turn that match around and get rid of the last Gila. It's just too much Gila's DPS. I think going for the Rattlesnake really they outplayed themselves there. They should have really went after the Gilas instead of just the Rattlesnake. I think they just, like you said, mid match, they were just took too much time, too much trade to take a Rattlesnake down. I think
those Gilas were interesting. It almost seemed like one or two of them were in a tackling role. I'm very curious to see the fits there. But just conceptually, Hyperions would have had a very difficult time with that team because the Gilas could kite them out. The Rattlesnake was kind of there. I mean, it was the logical target for the bombers to shoot. They would have had a difficult time applying to the Gilas. Just
the bombers definitely, but the Hyperions, they got on top of those, two of the Gilas at least, and at the end there, and that's getting rid of that DPS. The Hyperion just becomes stronger. That's tank and it was a close. I think it could have went either way. There if they could have got on if they would have done Gilas first if they went after that first, but again they didn't have the tackle too, so who knows if they would actually caught him. But if instead of going after the Rattlesnake, I'm sure the Gilas moved in and felt more safe at that point. So.
Yeah, nice to see the Hyperion, though. I do really love it as a ship, and you saw some of the power of it late in the match as well. It's so difficult to kill even without logistics sometimes. And with the logistics on top of it, it's almost impossible to kill in a 7v7 format. You have to move around and grab the logistics instead. And right. If you've got Blackbird supporting that, it's so difficult to do so.
Well, let's shift gears here to our last match versus Shadow Cartel and Jovco Mining Division. Shadow Cartel, captained by Ader, has banned Ishtar, Gila, Bargas, Loki, Zarmazad with its dupe, and Jovco Mining Division, Ladira as the captain, banned Bargas, Ishtar, Scorpion, Blackbird. So a couple dupes in this comp, and it's interesting that we're not going to see. I don't think
many jams, unless someone wants to bring a Rook or Kitsune or Griffin, but because Blackbird and Scorpion are jammed. We could see a Widow again. I'm not sure if we will. But yeah, it looks like definitely drones are not want to be seen in this one. So we'll see what happens. See what they bring.
I think the Blackbird bands are an interesting choice. I mean, the Blackbird is good, but of the ECM ships, I would consider it the worst of the bunch, the least survivable. If you're going to spend your ban on something, the Rook or the Kitsune seems like the more natural choice. Maybe even the Widow, because we have seen it being brought in some of these matches.
Yeah.
I'd be kind of happy to see a Blackbird on field because, if someone's going to run ECM, that's the one I would be like, okay, good, they got a Blackbird. If we can
I'm a little partial to a Kitsune. Those things are so paper thin. The tank is just, I don't think it's worth it. I think it's a bad call.
Well, they both have a paper tank, but at least the Kitsune's got some speed, and maybe it's difficult to track.
Yeah, that's true.
The Blackbird, I mean, even if you fit it with max tank, even if you fit it for speed, it's not going to be that tanky. It's not going to be that fast.
Yeah.
I mean, the Blackbird's tank is primarily its range. It can jam from 100 kilometers plus away. So as long as you've got other ships in your composition which can hold things down, you can still use them effectively.
Yeah.
Especially if you have two of them, because you can use one Blackbird to jam things off of the other Blackbird while sitting 100 kilometers away from it, which can allow it to tank very effectively. Yeah, it's a bit more of a supplementary. Like, you can't lock people out of the game with a Blackbird, whereas you can with the Widow and the Rook.
Yep.
Still, we're going to see some really we're going to see an interesting matchup here with one of my very, very favorite ships represented in twos here in the Abaddon. Like I said, that thing is just so powerful on paper. It's a question of how you get it to really, how you support it. Because unlike we kind of have come to expect with laser boats, the Abaddon does not have perfect tracking. It needs to sit, 20 to 30 kilometers away from something and really pound on it with conflag or Imperial Navy multi-frequency to make its impact.
Right.
If it ends up sitting at 0 on things, a surprising amount of ships can actually get under its guns.
Very interesting, and I mean, for all the hype we've given the Abaddon, I hope it delivers in this match. I think it may.
All right, well, let's hand it over to Alec and Radikos to go to talk us through the final match of the evening.
Shadow Cartel has an amazing setup here. We've got the Leshak Sacrilege, one of my favorite ships, Mauler, Aneros, Magus, Vengeance for tackle, and a lone Kitsune for ECM support.
And on the Jovco Mining Division side, the blue team, we have a double Abaddon, Aneros, Augur Navy issue, Draugr for links, Mauler, and Malediction for some tackle. Be interesting to see how the Leshek fares against this kind of a gunboating look team here. That Mauler, does that have any turrets on it, or is it a full Newt Mauler? As the match starts underway here.
Taking a look at it now, I am not seeing any turrets on the Mauler. That is probably full Newton tackle fit.
I'll expect that thing to get right on in there. All right. They are burning in, looks like the Magus, Tiny Linkton of Shadow Cartel was burning in there, but now he's kind of going back. They're doing a little dance here. Jockeying for position.
Cutting to the left of their starting point here, trying to make their way in at an angle, possibly to abuse the lack of tracking on the Abaddons that Yin was mentioned at the start of this. They are getting close, though. They're starting to close range. We should start to see some massive damage be exchanged very shortly.
Draugr and Magus here.
Yeah, it looks like the frigates and the destroyers are starting to run into each other now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it looks like the Draugr is trying to chase down Malediction, or Magus is, but he is turning back around. And now the Malediction coming back in.
Tiny Linkton Magus taking an extreme amount of damage now. He is getting some reps, but he had a brush with death there.
Looks like the Abaddon of Sovereign from the Jovco is the primary here, and now that the Mauler has caught, but he's kind of holding there. He's taking little chunks, tiny trinkets of damage, but he gets a rep, and then he bouncing up and down a little bit there.
Yeah, it looks like both the Abaddons are shooting the Lashak, and the Lashak is returning in kind.
Yeah, it seems like the Oneros is just holding him just fine.
Yeah, these I wonder what's going on here. The Lashak, or excuse me, the Abaddons are not hitting this Lashak for much damage. I doubt it's a tracking issue because the Lashak isn't that fast. Could be some electronic warfare being put on them.
Yeah, what's maybe the Magus or even the Sacrilege could have. I mean, you'd think the Sacrilege would be something in your face, but it could have a tracking disruptor on it. I would expect more of a Magus than anything.
Oh, we do have the Kitsune down for Shadow Cartel, or excuse me, for Shadow Cartel. Their Kitsune has dropped. Now it seems like some DPS is being swapped onto the Mauler of Liam Shotson. He is a big brick, though. He's going to be able to tank that pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting choice to shoot right there with your Abaddon and half armor now, just getting full spool Lashek damage on it. Interesting.
They don't really seem to be doing much of anything offensively here.
I mean, they have a Mauler of their own and an Og Navy and a Draugr. You think they would want to take out the Lynx to hurt this comp more, because they're just going to keep tanking easily.
Well, the Maulers have tackled each other, so that's what's happening over there.
Oh yes, look at that.
A lot of damage being spread amongst the support wings of both fleets now, as we see the Vengeance and the Magus both taking some damage. And now the Malediction going into about 2/3 armor. Now down to half armor. This Jovco Malediction, he's dropping relatively quickly. But he's now caught reps. He's going to ping pong a little bit because the Malediction is a very thin ship, even if you put a plate on it.
Mm-hmm.
The Oneros is in rep position for him. They're moving some drones over to try to support him, but there are also damage drones heading his way to match. He's taking quite a pounding, bleeding some structure now. They may not have the tank on him to keep him up. He's now increased his speed to try to kite away from the drones. That might be exactly what he needs.
Well, what's interesting here is the Lashak
no, he stopped. The Malediction has stopped and turned. He's now in deep structure.
Oh, no.
Oh, he's increased speed again. If he turns one more time, that drone cloud following him is going to catch and kill him.
There he goes.
Again. No.
He's done. He is done. There's no way you can do that. Finally, now the Lashek is taking some damage, but that Abaddon is so low, and you can't just keep. Oh, whoa! Tiny LinkedIn taking huge shots. Looks like they were listening to the comms here, and when I said to switch to the Magus, this is very good for them. They can take this Magus out.
It looks like the Og Navy and the Draugr are mostly the ones focusing on Tiny there.
Oh, big Oneros reps.
That Draugr is probably, if not fully spooled close.
And he is down. Tiny LinkedIn just get put down.
Just not enough buffer there. Meanwhile, Draugr is also taking some return fire there. They might trade.
And Vengeance, too, also getting attention from the Shadow Cartel Vengeance. Oh, man. Will he drop before the Draugr drops here?
It looks like Jackie has activated his assault damage control. He's getting repped up to near full. As soon as it expires, though. Yikes.
I don't think it's going to matter now. This is Abaddon and Mauler are going to simultaneously. There goes the Abaddon, and Mauler going down simultaneously is just not good for Jovco. And Shadow Cartel finally establishing themselves with a comp here, and looks like they're going to be pulling out a win. And if they can't, if Jovco can't come back here.
Well, the Jovco Abaddon seems like he's all over the place. At one point, he was trying to shoot the Draugr. Now he's switched over to the Mauler. For whatever reason, they're not able to break this Lashak, so it looks like he is trying to shoot whatever he thinks he can kill. That's usually a sign of desperation. There's no coherent strategy.
And now, full DPS being put onto the Abaddon, and the Neros has to be running low on cap charges because he's been just feeding that Abaddon reps this whole entire match, as well as trying to help other guys out.
It'll
I
be
think the main
interesting.
problem for First Recon here is if he was not able to track and apply enough damage to break a Lashak, there's no way he's going to be able to do that for a Vengeance, a Mauler, a Sacrilege. His
Yeah.
best shot of anything would be the Aneros, but I don't think he's in range.
And still, the Aneros can, finagle itself out of away from an Abaddon. I mean, I just don't see, unfortunate for Jovco here, but with the Lasheka dominance on field, the way it can, its utilities, it has smart bombs or the newts. It can have a grapple and like possibly either a tracking computer or maybe just have a scram on it so it can hold battleships down and can just spool an occult. Like there's just so many different variations you can do. Lashek, just sitting there can take out like a hyena or a kitsune or something pretty quick with Mason. But it's just not gonna
Now, the
the Abaddon just can't compare to it, I don't think.
The Abaddon has swapped. It started shooting the Aneros, now it's shooting the Draugr. The Draugr is taking a lot of damage here.
Yeah, I don't think
Draugr getting pounded on. He may go down.
he is down. That's links off for Jovco. So, and again, this Lashek is just doing whatever he wants to do.
Yeah, the Abaddon trying to do what it can. Unfortunately, it just can't do a lot. It needs support. It doesn't have the ability to take on a whole fleet by itself. It's trying to shoot the Aneros now, and it's hitting it, but because it's not tackled, it's going to be able to mitigate a lot of that damage through speed tanking.
Yeah, and it goes down. There goes the Abaddon. And that's the final nail in the coffin, even with Aneros and Augur Navy. It was a nice try by Jovco. Valiant effort, but that Lashek and Sacrilege still on field with a Newt Mauler. It's just you cannot expect to win.
Yeah, the Jovco Aug Navy has just dived right into the enemy fleet.
He says, "I want to go after that Aneros. I want to try and kill it."
He's trying to go after the Vengeance here, I think, to free their own Aneros, which is now tackled and taking damage. But he might have been better served by trying to go after the Shadow Cartel Aneros. Because I don't think he's going to be able to make a lot of headway against the Vengeance. I think he's trying to maybe newt him off to let the Aneros escape. But that Aneros is just swarmed with neutralizing ships and tons of drones. A massive drone cloud over there. A mix of armor maintenance bots from both teams, as well as some damage drones from Shadow Cartel. He's dipping into structure now. This should go quickly. And there he goes. And the Aug Navy already preemptively tackled by the Shadow Cartel Mauler of Liam Schatzen.
Will the Aug Navy live for the next 30 seconds before the match is over?
Oh, I want to say yes, but as that Lashak starts spooling up on him, he's going to hit him for perfect damage. Not only do Lashaks have a lot of tracking, but that Augur Navy is well tackled.
And he is a fat bitch.
Have multiple scrams, multiple webs. They're newting him like crazy. He's got no rep drones on himself.
4, 3, 2, 1. He made it!
Nice.
The Aug Navy, in his loss, has lived out the match of getting dominated by Shadow Cartel and the Lashak core of this comp here.
In a terrible display of swordsmanship, they may kill him anyway. Although it looks like they've stopped at 1/3 structure. Shadow Cartel dishonorably getting shots in after the match.
Yeah, maybe we take that win away from them for that.
Disqualified.
When they finally get a win and they're going to get disqualified, I don't know. Iater, what are you doing over there?
Wow, what a great bunch of matches that we've had today, guys. It's been some really interesting stuff to see between Shield EOSes and an endless stream of healers. Are there any matches you guys want to highlight as being particularly fun to watch?
I like the drone match between who was it? Odin's and Fancypants, right? They brought the Ishtar and EOS, yeah. I like the shield and armor drone
fight. That was good little duel they had there. I just or not Fancypants. I guess it was Odin's and which ones? Or wow, I'm terrible. It was paid actors and Jovco, right? That brought the Shield EOS and then the Armor EOS.
I think so.
Yeah, paid actors and Jovco. Excuse me, that was my favorite match, not the Odin's Fancypants. Sorry. I just like seeing the drones fight, especially if you were on my team for AT. You know how much I like drones because they hated it.
I've got to highlight the Wolves Among Strangers Vigilant match, and what a cool fleet concept. It was a great pick and a good counter for the comp that they went up against, and a very exciting match with a lot of back and forth where it wasn't clear they would win when their first Vigilant went down, but they had, tackled the targets that they needed to tackle, and everything kind of played out for them deep into the match. I really like that. Very cool to watch.
Obviously, for me, I got to say I loved watching the Widow Duel. Widow Duels are just hilariously fun. But anyway, the next opens will be on at the 10th of April at 1900 Eve. If you're like us and British, remember that the daylight savings have put Eve time out of sync with British time. So we're an hour behind now. I totally didn't realize that one before I signed up to commentate this one at 11 o'clock. Or midnight as it is now. But anyway, have a wonderful evening and we will see you again next week.
Thanks, chat, and thanks everyone for watching and the teams for participating and having matches. It was a lot of fun.